Hello, beautiful Libra soul. They laughed at your pain. But what they didn't know is that your silent comeback would become their karma. This is a deep and transformative horoscope reading, brought to you by Zodiac Whisper Tarot, created specifically for you. And trust me, you're not here by accident. In the first few seconds of this video, I want to be clear, this isn't just another general message. This is the one you've been waiting for, the message that marks the turning point. Something big is unfolding beneath the surface of your life, and today, we're going to bring it into the light. So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your quiet suffering was invisible to the world, like no one saw how much strength it took just to stay kind? Because Libra, I know you've carried the weight of peace on your shoulders. You've been the balance in the chaos, the softness in the storm. You chose silence instead of striking back. And for that, they underestimated you. But what they didn't realize is, your silence wasn't weakness, it was power in disguise. They mocked what they couldn't understand. They mistook your grace for surrender. And now, they'll witness a rise so steady, so luminous, that it won't need to shout. It will simply be undeniable. This message today isn't about revenge. It's about reclamation. Reclaiming your light. Your voice. Your center. Because what's coming is not a loud explosion, it's a quiet revolution, one that begins inside of you. And before we dive deeper, let me take a sacred moment to thank you truly for being here. Every time you like, comment, share, or subscribe, you're not just supporting this channel, you're anchoring yourself more deeply into the energetic family of Zodiac Whisper Tarot. And your presence here? It means more than words can say. You are the reason this sacred work continues. And if this message already stirs something inside your heart, then stay with me, because what the universe is revealing today is beyond anything you've imagined. Now I want to ask you something personal, Libra. What happened in your life recently that made you feel like this video was meant for you? Go ahead and write it in the comments below. Don't overthink it. Your intuition already knows. And if you feel a special connection to this moment, confirm it. Comment the number 7, a sacred number of spiritual healing and divine timing. That number will mark your readiness to receive what's next. Because what's coming is bigger than the pain they caused. It's the quiet roar of your soul returning home. Let's begin. Sometimes, the brightest light hides behind the softest silence. And Libra, if you've ever wondered why you felt the need to shrink yourself just to maintain the peace, this part of your journey will speak directly to your soul. What they didn't understand about you wasn't your weakness. It was your restraint. You didn't lash out. You didn't retaliate. Instead, you turned inward. And in that sacred stillness, something ancient and powerful was preparing to rise. For far too long, others may have looked at your diplomacy and mistaken it for fragility. Your ability to see every side of a story, to weigh truth with empathy, became ammunition for those who operated from judgment rather than wisdom. They didn't see the internal storm you managed daily. And perhaps they never will. But Libra, that's not your burden to carry anymore. The chariot appears now not as a prediction, but as a reflection. You are no longer being pulled by the world around you, you are the one holding the reins. This is the season of self-direction, where you are not waiting for approval or clarity to be handed to you. You are creating it, steering yourself with intention. And the moment you realize you're not asking for permission anymore, the energy around you begins to respond in kind. Alongside the Chariot comes the Ace of Swords, slicing through fog like a blade of divine clarity. This card reveals the truth you've swallowed for the sake of harmony, words left unsaid, truths dulled down just to be digestible to others. But that time is over. This card isn't calling you to speak out in rage, it's inviting you to speak from your root, from the clear, grounded knowing that your voice was never meant to be silenced. When the energy of truth rises through your throat chakra, what we call the fifth energy center, your entire field begins to recalibrate. Life stops echoing old patterns. It starts responding to your clarity. You see, energy moves where authenticity lives. And when you hide, your life hides with you. But when you open even just a little, the ripple moves across everything. This is why the act of speaking, of writing down what you once feared to say, is so much more than therapy. It's transformation. Silent suffering is not noble. It is merely unspoken pain. And you were never meant to be a container for pain. You were meant to be a conduit for healing. There's wisdom in restraint, Libra. But there is also grace in release. Your gentleness doesn't need to be louder, it needs to be more honest. When you speak from love and truth, not fear or anger, you become a living invitation for others to do the same. That is leadership. That is divine authority. And it starts with a single sentence you no longer want to hold inside. So if you're feeling the stirrings right now, if your body is whispering that there's something you've been holding in, I invite you gently to let it rise. You don't have to tell the world. But you can start by telling yourself. Write it. Speak it aloud when you're alone. Give your truth a voice, even if it shakes. Because the moment it leaves the cage of your silence, it sets 1,000 new possibilities free. And remember, there is no punishment in expression when it is rooted in peace. Just as the rain doesn't apologize for falling, you don't need to apologize for what is real inside you. You are not here to be agreeable. You are here to be aligned. If something stirred within you as you heard this, let yourself respond. Take a deep breath and comment below. What is one truth you've kept inside to avoid being judged? Let this be your beginning, not to fight, but to free. And just like that, without raising your voice or demanding recognition, your very presence becomes undeniable. Libra, this is the kind of victory no one sees coming, the kind that doesn't need applause, explanation, or revenge. It simply is. This is what we call a quiet triumph, one that reshapes your entire field of energy without making a sound. And for those who once laughed at your pain, who mistook your patience for passivity, your radiance will be the most profound response. Not out of spite, but from the undeniable truth that nothing speaks louder than a life healed and fully lived. The Ace of Wands appears now as a symbol of ignition. Not of anger but of purpose. You're not lashing out, you're lighting up. Something deep within you is stirring again, a spark that had been buried under layers of survival and silence. It may feel small at first, like a passing thought, a moment of inspiration, a whisper in the body that says, try again. That is your soul returning to the surface. That is your passion remembering its path. And it's okay if it takes time. Fire never questions whether it has the right to burn, it just finds the oxygen and rises. The Empress follows this spark like the soft echo of strength. She doesn't defend herself. She doesn't convince anyone. She simply is, and the world responds. When you embody love for yourself, not in words but in your choices, who you give time to, what you say yes to, how you protect your peace, you become a fortress of sacred calm. No one can tear down what they can't access. And the moment you decide you don't need to prove your worth to anyone, that's when your boundaries shift from invisible walls to living wisdom. Energetically, the Six of Pentacles brings this idea home. You're not here to endlessly pour into people who leave your cup empty. Balance is not about always saying yes, it's about knowing when to withhold, not from cruelty, but from clarity. Giving is a beautiful thing. But giving without being seen, heard, or respected, that becomes sacrifice. You're done sacrificing. You're ready to share your abundance, emotional, spiritual, even financial, with those who know how to hold it. That's not cold. That's conscious. Astrologically, this phase aligns with Venusian transformation, a purification of the sacred feminine within you, regardless of gender. You're not reacting from the wounds of the past anymore. You're reorienting from the values that matter now. With transits clearing karmic residue, you're stepping into new dynamics that reflect how deeply you've evolved. The past no longer gets to decide your present. The door to repeating cycles is closed, not because someone finally changed, but because you did. As your aura continues to stabilize, consider working with supportive colors to deepen your shift. Olive green nurtures discernment, golden tones restore confidence, and creamy white invites softness without surrender. Let these tones guide you when making decisions, choosing environments, or simply dressing in a way that reflects your frequency. There's no need to climb onto a pedestal to be seen. Your light, steady, unshaken, and rooted, now reflects into the eyes of those who once turned away. And when they look again, they'll see what they missed. Not because you demanded their attention, but because your glow left them no choice. If you've ever forgiven someone but knew deep down that reconnecting would cost you your peace, you're already embodying this power. That's how karma begins to reverse, not through punishment, but through clarity. You evolve beyond what wounded you. And from that place of still, burning clarity, you change the course of your entire story. So I invite you to claim that shift now. In the comments below, write the name of someone you've truly released, or simply say, "I've let go," as an act of closure. This isn't for them. It's for you. Because nothing is more sacred than the moment you choose yourself without apology. Not every ending needs to be dramatic. Some endings arrive quietly, like a page turned by the breeze, final, clear, and necessary. And Libra, that's where you are now. You are standing at the close of a long, silent chapter, a chapter where you gave too much, tried too hard, and stayed too long in places where your presence was tolerated but not honored. But now, you are being invited to write a new story, one where the language isn't sacrifice, but sovereignty. A life written not in reaction, but in intention. This next chapter isn't being dictated by anyone else. That's the message of the magician. The pen is in your hand. The table is set with every tool you need: thought, emotion, resource, and spirit. There's no external permission required. You create from what's within. The magician reminds you that you're not powerless, you're potent. You've simply been too busy trying to prove yourself to notice how much strength you already carry. But now, the proving season is over. The creating season has begun. And what are you creating? The Two of Cups whispers of something real, a connection rooted in mutual respect, not codependency. This isn't about being completed by someone else. It's about being met. Emotionally, spiritually, and energetically. Whether it's a romantic bond, a partnership, or a friendship, this energy brings reciprocity, where you no longer need to shrink to be loved or overgive to be chosen. This is the divine reflection of a soul that has done the work and is now ready to receive not what's familiar, but what's right. Judgment rises behind it, like a soft yet powerful call from the center of your being. It's not the voice of shame or guilt, it's the voice of clarity. A sacred nudge asking, are you ready to live like you've already been forgiven? Like your past doesn't define you, only refines you? This is the moment where you decide to walk forward, not out of rebellion, but from remembrance of who you are, who you've always been beneath the survival stories. Now, practically speaking, this is where the inner shift starts becoming visible in the external. In your relationships, you'll stop trying to rescue people who don't want to be saved, or worse, who drain your life force while refusing to change. Emotionally, you'll begin setting boundaries not out of fear, but out of wisdom. In your career, you'll start aligning with roles and environments that match your soul values, not just your skills. If it doesn't feel like it feeds your purpose, you'll notice, and that noticing is the first step to change. When it comes to your body, don't ignore the quiet messages. There's tension that's been sitting in your nervous system, long after the crisis has passed. It's time to nourish your inner world with simple care, foods rich in magnesium, breathwork to ground your thoughts, and space, even just a few minutes a day where nothing is expected of you. As for finances, this is not a time to chase sparkle. It's a time to build roots. Invest in what sustains your future peace, not just your present status. And here's something powerful you can practice today: say no. Just once. Kindly. Firmly. Without explaining. And notice how it doesn't diminish your kindness, it deepens your self-respect. Because you're not the same person who once accepted crumbs. You are rebuilding the structure of your life. So, tell me, what new chapter are you writing now? A new love? A deeper self? A new mission? Comment below and claim it, because when you name it, you activate it. And this time, the story belongs entirely to you. It begins subtly, like the shift in the air before a season changes. You might not notice it at first, but others do. There's something different about the way you enter a room now. Something steadier. Quieter. Stronger. And Libra, this isn't just growth. It's emergence. It's the moment your light stops existing just to survive and starts existing to lead. The Sun card appears now not simply as a symbol of joy, but as a return to self. The kind of joy that isn't forced, faked, or filtered for others' comfort. This is the joy that rises when you stop abandoning parts of yourself to be accepted. When you allow your truth to be seen not with grand announcements, but through small, consistent alignment. And when that happens, your energy changes. The people you attract change. The experiences you magnetize into your life are no longer just lessons, they begin to feel like rewards. The world follows closely behind, completing a sacred loop in your journey. Not just a chapter ending, but a graduation. You've done the work internally, emotionally, spiritually, and now, the field around you responds. You're no longer looping through the same patterns because you've integrated the wisdom. This moment is not just about finishing something. It's about stepping into a frequency you once thought was reserved for others. You've arrived at the threshold of a new level, and what's on the other side will meet you at the level of your readiness. In the language of astrology, your ruling planet Venus is gently lifting you into harmony, while the presence of Uranus and Saturn shakes away old identities. These cosmic influences have likely stirred you, disrupting the comfort zones, ending cycles you once clung to. And it's not always been graceful. But disruption isn't destruction. It's redefinition. You are no longer the person who tolerated misalignment in the name of love, peace, or acceptance. You are now becoming someone who embodies peace, simply by being whole. This is where the law of attraction takes root in a deeper way. When your energy rises, you stop attracting people who need fixing and start drawing in those who are already walking in the same direction. You no longer call in situations to teach you boundaries because now, your boundaries are embodied, not explained. You don't have to guard your worth. It becomes self-evident. The vibration you emit becomes your compass. And from this frequency, you attract what uplifts, not what depletes. You've likely heard it said that you are the light, and maybe for a long time, you believed that meant shining quietly in your corner. But something's changed. Now, your light isn't just illuminating your own space. It's becoming a guidepost for others. Like a lantern in the forest, your healing, your authenticity, and your calm presence are now signals to others that they too can find their way. Not by following you, but by remembering who they are when they stand beside you. And here's a gentle truth to carry forward: you don't need permission to be seen. You don't need approval to shine. You don't need to apologize for growing beyond what others are ready to receive. Your light was never meant to fit inside someone else's shadow. So if you feel that shift, that's subtle but powerful, knowing that you are done waiting to be chosen, validated, or invited, let yourself say it out loud. Claim it. Write it in the comments if it resonates with you. I walk in gratitude, and I no longer ask for permission to be myself. Because when you stop waiting for permission, the world begins to respond differently. And this time, it won't be because you change to fit in. It'll be because you finally let yourself stand out. There comes a moment when the need to explain, justify, or win someone's understanding simply fades, not because you've given up, but because you've grown up. Libra, this is that moment for you. You're no longer waiting for others to agree with your path in order to validate its truth. You no longer dim your joy just to make someone else feel less uncomfortable. You've shifted. Your smile isn't a mask anymore. It's a mirror. A reflection of someone who has finally chosen to be fully alive, not just tolerated. Remember the version of yourself who tried to shrink to stay loved, who twisted into shapes just to avoid rejection? That version wasn't wrong, they were just surviving. But now, the truth has settled deep into your bones. You are not required to keep making space for people who refuse to meet you where you are. You've outgrown the need for applause. You are no longer driven by approval. And this is what real freedom tastes like, the kind that comes from knowing that you alone are the answer to your life, not anyone else's opinion of you. The power in this phase lies in its quietness. You no longer need to return to old conversations to tie up loose ends. The closure is internal now. And no matter how tempting it might be to go back and explain how much you've changed, how much you've healed, you don't have to. Those who are meant to understand will see it. Those who aren't never could, even if you wrote it in stars. You were never supposed to convince them. You were meant to continue. From an energetic perspective, when you stop chasing validation, you reclaim immense life force. That energy, once spent trying to be understood, is now redirected into creating a life that fits you instead of one that tries to fit in. In the language of the universe, that's when the shift happens. That's when blessings begin to arrive not as exceptions, but as the new standard. You stop manifesting from lack, and begin creating from wholeness. You're not asking anymore. You're allowing. And for many of you, this might feel like an unfamiliar strength. A peaceful confidence. Not loud, not defensive, just steady. You might notice yourself choosing silence over proving. Walking away instead of pleading. Smiling instead of explaining. This is what it means to lead with light instead of fear. This is what it means to embody the message instead of speaking it. So if you've been asking for a sign for when it's okay to stop trying so hard to be enough, this is it. You already are. Not because someone told you so, but because you remembered it on your own. And that remembering is your greatest comeback. They don't have to know what it took. They don't need to understand your path. They don't even need to believe in your truth. Because you do. And that's enough now. Let yourself live, Libra. Let yourself be radiant. Let yourself be messy and real and unbothered by what they think. Let the universe handle the rest. You don't have to fight for your place in someone else's story anymore. You've started writing your own. And if you feel this truth deep in your soul, I invite you to reflect on this gentle question. Are you still trying to belong in a space that no longer reflects who you are? If not, let it go. And if yes, maybe it's time. Comment below. I've learned the lesson and I'm ready to receive the next gift. Because the moment you declare it, the next chapter begins. Libra, you were never meant to wait for someone else's permission to shine. The truth is, you were already chosen by life, by destiny, by the quiet knowing deep within you that whispered, you are here for more. You don't need a round of applause to validate your presence. You don't need anyone to nod in approval for you to be exactly who you are. And even if there were moments in your past when you were laughed at, overlooked, or misunderstood, those moments were never the measure of your worth. They were simply the contrast, the shadows that revealed how radiant your light truly is. When you start living in alignment with your soul, people may still not understand you. Some may fall away, and others might try to pull you back into the version of yourself that felt safer to them. But you, Libra, are not here to shrink. You are here to expand. You are not here to fit in. You are here to rise, to lead, and to inspire just by being fully and unapologetically you. So as this journey draws to a close, for now, take a moment to breathe deeply into this truth. You are not behind, you are not broken, and you are not too late. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Even the silence had meaning. Even the waiting had purpose. You are stepping into a new chapter now, not with fear, but with grace. You're no longer chasing validation. You're walking in alignment. And if you ever wonder whether it's okay to claim your voice, to take up space, To live your truth boldly, let this be your reminder. You do not need permission. You do not need to be given worth. You already have it. You already are it. Let today be the moment you say, I no longer need to be seen to know that I matter. Let this be the day you affirm, I do not need to be approved to know I have value. I walk in balance, in love, and in the light of a soul reborn. If this message resonated with your heart, if you felt something shift inside you, I encourage you to share it. Someone in the middle of their darkest night might need this exact light. And your courage to comment, to speak your truth, to affirm your power could be what sparks healing for someone else. So I ask you, from a place of quiet strength, what are you no longer waiting for permission to do? Who are you ready to become now that you know you don't need anyone's approval but your own? Let your answer live in the comments. Let your story ripple outward. And if you haven't already, I invite you to subscribe to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, a space where your truth is welcome, your light is honored, and your healing matters. Share this video with someone who needs to know they're not alone. And return when you're ready, because the light we build here isn't just for one moment, it's for the journey ahead. I'll meet you there.